This programme was funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.
Dundalk's Creative Spark was the venue for an arts and health event in January 2017. At the mic is David Davies, poet and painter.
Hello, my name is David. Basically, I found the love of writing when I was quite young. Though when I was at school, I didn't really take much heed in it. It was only when I left school that I began to write wee small things. And I wanted to play the guitar, actually, so I started writing wee songs, but I wasn't a good guitarist, so I just kept with the writing. But I found it a very good way to release stress and to see my words written down. Then I can sort of reason with it a wee bit more. And fair enough, some of the stuff that I wrote scared me, but at the same time, it's good to think on good stuff as well, to bring forward good thoughts. Though I'm reading quite dark stuff tonight, it's an expression of what people actually go through. But this first piece that I'm doing is called Icarus File. The name I got from the Michael Caine movie Icarus File, and it's about sounds. And when you suffer from anxiety or autism, I'm sensitive to sound, you see, so it can be quite painful at times. Keep it low. Turn it up. Make it sound like a car. Mouse click, mouse click, mouse click, mouse click, mouse click. He'll never work. We'll turn him gay. Just rough him up a little. Calm down, you're all right, you're all right. Click, thud, click, thud, click, thud. Click, thud, click, thud. And that's that piece over.
I went and said hello to David, and over a cup of coffee we got talking about the rain, soundtracks, movies in verse, and living alone. I asked him about the book of poems he had just published, entitled The Romantic Landscape.
Well, basically, they're poems that are about my past relationships. I express how I feel through the landscape and nature, and how I connect with the landscape. There's also ones which are very playful and whimsical, and they might have a slight humorous aspect to them.
His dad, John, was from Cardiff, and his mum, Evelyn, from East Belfast, and he grew up in Clevedon in England. But his dad died when David was just 3 months old. He had a hard time growing up in Belfast without a father figure, but he was surrounded by love from his mother and brother, Auntie Joan, and his nana and granddad, Agnes and Fred Lyons. David said he was interested in music, furniture restoration, painting and writing, but had difficulties mixing with people, and only learned later what the causes were. We got along well, so I asked him could we meet up to make a radio programme about his life in Belfast. We were just up at your secondary school, which was Orangefield High School, although there's nothing there anymore. Does it bring back any good memories at all?
Well, to be honest with you, no. It wasn't my place of satisfaction or anything. For me, it just taught me bigotry, if I'm being to be honest. Though apparently back in its heyday, it was supposed to be a good school. I mean, Van Morrison came from Orchard High School, and a poet called Gerald Dorr. But certainly in my time, it wasn't like a school that I could boast about, you know.
You weren't going to do your GCSEs, but you did end up doing one. What was that?
Yeah, well, I left Orangefield with one GCSE that you could call a pass, which was a C grade in art and design. And I only can thank one of my teachers that did go to Orchard High School. He was my art teacher, and he cared and phoned me up and got me in to actually do my exam. Or if he didn't have done that, I would have lied in my bed, and I wouldn't have came out with any. And having that C grade actually gave me that little bit of confidence to go into the world and to follow art. And that's what kept me going through life, I suppose. It sort of, you know, I just followed on from there. And only later did I realise that I can actually learn and settle down. So I started going back to college. I went to Castlereagh College, and then I got a few other extra GCSEs and an A-level in art. And then I opened up a doorway to go to university, and that's how I got to where I am today, really.
From there, we drove up to Station Road. David recalled his memories of his grandfather, Frederick Lyons, who had a furniture restoration workshop.
See where that big modern build is there behind? That used to be the old Victorian house, but it's knocked down now, and they used to have stables at the back. And my granddad used to rent out the stables, basically, for his workshop. And it was all packed out full of wood and all sorts of stuff, like different bits of furniture and door handles and all that stuff.
I asked David to tell me what his granddad had taught him about woodwork and what machines and tools he remembered using in the workshop.
Well, he would have got me to scrape chairs and stuff, and he even taught me the skill of marquetry, which I appreciate, which is it's the inlay of wood. You can either have inlay or sort of like onlay, which is covering a surface with a thin piece of wood. An inlay is where you inset the wood into a solid piece and stuff. So he taught me that, how to make chessboards, and he taught me how to French polish and to use machines and stuff like that. Well, first of all, the electric ones, which my mum was always frightened of, which was the circular saw. Then you get the electric plane, and then you get the bandsaw. And then you get handheld tools. You had the planes, you had chisels and hammers and stuff. And you can get old antique ones. He had some really nice rulers from Holland and Wolff and stuff. And yeah, so yeah, it was very memorable for me. So I wrote a small poem in remembrance of that. So this is called Old Workshop. Heartwood of early years in a barn stands, crammed as a chest of drawers. To open and see all packed, screws and old handles, old papers and drawings stacked. For the drawers to run smooth, there are candles. And there is every kind of tool, you could say full of jewels. As a journal unfolds, that many a drawer holds, shaved woods, distilled pine, polishes of honey and sap. This is a full-bodied wine, old clothes and a cap, a scarf or a woolly hat, the heat of a lit fireplace, a jumper tied round the waist, all for winter's face.
In the background was an unintended external random noise, and it made me think about how we cope with intrusive voices and thoughts, confuse, frustrate, anger and stress us from time to time. That leaves us seeking a creative balance between modern life and peace, freedom and contentment. For David, it was in writing poetry. We continue on our trip around Belfast. Okay, so we're on the Newton Ards Road now. It's a Saturday evening, things are quieting down but after 6 o'clock, and you've brought me to this old building. It's called the Portview Trade Centre, but it holds a place in your heart.
Well, yes, I like here because this is an old art gallery called the Engine Room Gallery, which I'm not sure if they've actually moved back into this old building. They've been relocated a couple of times. But certainly I had a group exhibition in here with other artists, and it brings back good memories for me. And also they have studio spaces for artists that come and do their work here, and it's called Creative Exchange, East Belfast Creative Exchange. A way back as well, years ago, I wanted to start up my own business, and I wanted to have a let here at one time. That was my dream, actually, as a furniture restorer, though I worked from my mum's garage. Unfortunately, I wasn't successful in the self-business sort of angle in my life, so I just kept to the arts, really.
In the city, David tried out a wooden tipper or a boron kippeen that we bought in Matchett's on Wellington Place on a high street light.
And then it lights up as well. I read a good poem the other day called The Shark's Teeth by an American poet, and it was about obviously noise about the city, but it zoned in about the silence as if shark's teeth, and sometimes the poem said about, you may get a minute of this silence in a city every so often, and sometimes you do, things just lull, and all of a sudden you get this quick silence, and then all of a sudden it goes back to its rustle and bustle, and that's why I like the poem. It was short, and it was a good wee piece. We learnt it in writing group the other day, actually. And that's the main street, just there to the right, and you can see the city hall. That's quite a famous view.
I thought one of your poems was written, it seemed to be against coffee drinkers. What was that?
Oh, that was a joke one. There's a guy who's a good poet called David Brazil, and he wrote one about tea, though it was political, but I didn't get it at first. And I just wrote one in return about coffee, though I drink coffee myself, but I'm more of a tea drinker. And I like how it's quietly made tea. With coffee, you always get a This is Prejudice Against Coffee Drinkers in tribute and response to David Brazil, and it was created with the help from the Hosford Group. Would you like to go for coffee? As if everybody is a coffee drinker. Even the place is called a cafe, abbreviated as to be French, the bourgeoisie. You cannot even say, do you want to go for a cup of tea, without offending the coffee drinkers? This political correctness with the words hot beverage, chai tea latte, they just sit on the fence. Can tea and coffee people ever agree? Have you heard the sound of coffee being made? Bang, bang, tsh, bang, bang, tsh. I am trying to read in this cafe, or putting on the coffee machine at home, waiting for the filter. Drip, 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 drip. It just builds up the bladder. And dried processed coffee, it's just not good enough. It is all a bit diuretic for me, as the coffee drinkers are always running to the toilet. They complain at the tea drinkers having too much of a variety, when these coffee drinkers have their espressos, double espressos, latte, Americano, cappuccino and mocha. That's not including all the flavours of caramel, orange, mint and vanilla. Is it to hide the bitter taste of coffee? Really, they are secret tea drinkers who like to sit in quiet spaces to knit natter or to be thinkers. It's just my latte, but I can't say that. I'm not a coffee drinker, it's just not my cup of tea. English breakfast Earl Grey and mint could be for me. Tea cozies and mittens from the snow, the kettle's on. How about a tea house? Old people want to relax, made as quiet as a mouse. Anyone care for a chocolate? Passing around the box only to be left with the coffee fondant flavour? No, on second thoughts I'll give the chocolate a miss. These coffee drinkers, they never slow down, always fidgety and twitchy, always a hard-worked frown. Coffee is a night to stay up, work, work, work. Fetch me a cup of coffee. I'm tired, no fuss. Here is another cup of coffee or plo pruss. Just keep it alit. You're a professional businessman in need to get that extra stimulant hit. Well, I'm not going to get a quiet cup of tea. You won't find me in a local power station creating energy.
We drift towards St Anne's Cathedral via Donegal Street and Writer Square.
Yeah, the Mac is just in behind St Anne's Cathedral. And then that's Writer Square. Do you want to go across? It's superb, like. That's by C.S. Lewis, that one. And that night there was a great feast in Carapavel, and revelry, and dancing, and gold flashed and wine flowed, and answering to music inside, but stranger, sweeter and more piercing came the music of the great sea people. And that was C.S. Lewis, and he was born in 1898 and died 1963. There's Thomas Carnduff. From the night of moving shadows to the sound of the shipyard's horn, we hail thee, Queen of the Northland, we who are Belfast born. Yeah.
From the night of moving shadows to the sound of the shipyard horn, we hail the Queen of the North. We hail the Queen of the Northland. So who's the Queen of the Northland?
I'm not sure. Queen Island, that's where Holland and Wolff is situated.
Queen Island?
Yeah, that's the areas, yeah.
Queen of the Northland.
I think, anyway.
Belfast born.
It's about the shipyard, basically building. Again, that has a lot of history and stuff. Yeah, people still write about that and all, about how people walked across the bridge with all their black hats and clothing and their lunchbox under their arm. And it was much more of a simpler life in one respect, but a lot of people lost their lives working on the Titanic. People don't realise that. The shipyard was real, I would call it hardcore man's work. It's the good thing about Belfast is we did at one point have the largest shipbuilding company in the world. That's the side of St Anne's Cathedral, and that's a huge cross, Celtic cross on the side, which is pretty splendid. And the funny thing about St Anne's Cathedral, it's built on a lot of Belfast's built on reclaimed land, and they couldn't put a tower on it. So one of the deans, I forget his name, wanted to be remembered. So he put on a very tall, thin, lightweight spike, which is in contrast to the old building. It's very modern. So it's an unusual sort of feature to St Anne's Cathedral. I'm not sure if I like it. I'm in two minds, really. You can see that that's beautiful oak, solid oak. Yeah, that would make a nice wallet. I'll do it very lightly.
So did you say that you worked here when you were younger?
Not when I was younger. A good 10 years ago, I worked as a sextant. I remember buffing the floors and cleaning the chairs, and there's public toilets. And you got the chalices ready for the drinking the wine, and stuff. And yeah, I just basically did odd jobs and stuff around. But to be honest, the job wasn't really for me. Basically, at the time I was quite ill, so I had to stop. Basically. And there's lovely. That's all hand carved, all that, which is quite splendid.
And you said that in here there is a book and it's got a listing of the names of the men who died during the First World War.
I'm not sure if you can still get it out, but the guy has the key so you can unlock it, and they used to be able to bring it out for people if they asked if they wanted to look up somebody.
There's news, a whole page of news there.
See, that could be it there. Samuel Agnew, I think that said he was in the Royal Irish Rifles.
Right, okay. Do you want to photograph it or anything?
Yeah, would you mind?
Yeah,
no, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Actually, yeah.
As long as I'm not in it.
Splendid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much.
Not
That's
at all.
superb.
I'm glad you're able to find it.
A homeless man used to come in all the time, and he used to, every day without fail at a certain time, he used to walk around the back of the church and pray. And he's an interesting man. It's sad that he became homeless, because he actually did a lot of Christian work in different countries and stuff. He was like an evangelist, if you like. But I assume he'd be dead by now. But I think he had skin cancer as well, and he was going through different operations.
but he lived in a hostel and stuff. But he would have came in here every day, like.
Right. And would you have had a conversation with him?
I would have always said hello to him. I even gave him some money once and stuff. And you know, it's important to have some sort of God or something to look up to. You know, just some sort of maybe somebody to admire or like a role model or something. You know, some people base their stuff on, like, I would base a lot of my my sort of like sort of admiring to musicians, I suppose, because they can like speak my pain. They can, they have an understanding. I think that's important for me, so I don't feel like I'm alone, if you know what I mean, I'm glad we came here today now.
Our next stop is Belfast Central Library on Royal Avenue. Opened in 1888 and inspiring generations and generations of readers and writers.
Old-fashioned round door, which is, I love that, it's like going back as a journalist, in the old-fashioned days where they used to walk in, it's with the spinning doors and all. It's cool, like. It's just up here.
Hello. And it's nice, the steps are nice and broad, which is superb. Yeah, the banister's lovely as well. There's a nice floral work with I don't know if that's the type of a petal of rose or something, but it is lovely. And this here's oak. You can see the medullary rays, a nice characteristic of oak wood.
Well, how would they have put in those knots, those buttons at the top? It's to stop people sliding down, obviously.
Yeah, yes. Well, they would have. They probably would have drilled in a wee bit, and it would have been a peg. There's probably some form of a peg, a dowel or something. That's where we go for our writing group in there. And you can see the architecture is superb. The floral, that's with the light blue and the skylight. It's it's a very nice room, and the capitals with the pillars are lovely. Like it's a nice library. Yes.
So, which section would you head for first when you come into the library?
Either the computer room or up here. To be honest with you, there's another upstairs which they have a piano, and there's a library of music where you can actually take out CDs. And I'm not sure if you can get DVDs, but I know there's CDs up there you can look at and stuff. So there's another floor as well.
Back outside by the library wall, David stopped to read a poem.
I mean, the title is called The Virgin, which is quite personal. I do sometimes write very personal, but I feel if you can't be honest and write about things like that to share, then what's the point of writing? In my case, that's how I feel. So The Virgin is about how I lost my virginity at the age of 36. And it's about, just because I'm a virgin, it doesn't make me good. It wasn't through good intentions. It was just because I was unwell and just life. If I was given a chance, I probably would have, slept around. I could have been bad. And it's about that, really. And it's about, it was special to me more than people would maybe know. And it's not just about women that can experience a special time of losing their virginity. Men can do so as well. So this piece is entitled The Virgin, and it's very slightly influenced by the song by Tori Amos called Crucify. It's only because I've used the word dirty sheets in it, and she refers to the same thing. And it's interesting because we're all looking for something more in life, and I suppose love is the ultimate thing. So this is called The Virgin. What is around you that covers, like the sky-filled clouds, laden to pour? to feel in moisture, drips its petal head, strands and streams to roll, as clouds packed, as a napkin with heaven's jewels bursting at the seams. It begins to rain. I am not the best, for reasons I cannot explain. Clouds are in the rivers, shining their glistening diamonds. If I could scoop them up in a net, I would give them to you. It is not necessarily clean and white, not like a saint in a christening pool. It is not a white robe of honesty. It's surely not pure, just because a virgin speaks, but special. This I would not squander, I would not spend or to sell a petal down the river. Do they call it dirty sheets? Fold and tie these pleats as close as your knitted stitch to pull it tighter. This robin I've looked for is in the colour of a body shared bed to give you this shape. Are you surprised to see a dry seed, to look back and see colour, gazing, glaring in shock, as giddy to the heart like two chaffinches? Her white looks across the garden scene with a Turkish delight of a pink flush, like a summer's rose, petal and soft to brush.
The wind is catching and the patchy grey sky threatens to open up, so we stop at a beer garden at the friendly Sunflower pub on Union Street, with its distinctive security cage at the entrance.
Yeah, the cage sounds pretty good, yeah. It's a good wee bar. It's out of the way and tucked in, but it's a wee gem.
And were there poetry nights here previously?
Yes, the Red Bill. The Red Pill used to run here, but we just asked the woman, and I'm sad to hear that it doesn't at the minute. So I hope that gets back on the road again, because it was a good night. Like, basically, you go upstairs in the Sunflower, and there's another bar, and there's a wee stage, and it's a proper performing stage, almost like for the for comedians. It's just slightly off the ground, and there's a wee mic in the middle with the light shining on you, and it's quite good. I've performed some of my poetry there before and stuff, and the bar is sort of situated at the back and stuff, and there's wee tables laid out across the floor, which it is a very good cozy night. Okay, this poem is called Annulate of Time. A Victorian ponytail, the legs elegantly stretched, from the turning, flutes tapered on tiptoes, reaching its surface of aged bruises, knocks and chips. This colour beautifies with patina that enriches its presence. The grain's romantic forms are attracted around knots to create buds, flames, the shape of the heart. Like a leaf that curls, frizzy, the curtain curl busy, as it shapes from the husk of walnut, pulling the colour from Van Dyke brown to bee's honey. What about the wood's rippling clouds, vertical with the horizontal, the sky's sand-duned clouds, as satinwood's evening of folding sheets, and the mellow warmth of oak with its iridescent rays? Lines flow around a land well cultivated. These cycles of seasons, cold to warm, swell and detract. The bark-touched beauty, forming the contours of a map. This surface, in depth, lifts this flatness. These lines look such a mess. Grid lines are interrupted by terrain. In their glow to the branches form, the saddle curl leads to the summit. It is from the heart wood. Growth rings sings provisions, the welcoming bloom of spring. Leaves are not just a summer gown, freshness growing up as it catches the rains, giving autumn a handful of nuts and fruits of all kinds. Is it not the trunk of the tree that stands because of cellulose, sucks like straws, the water to refresh? Though it is not stashed, inside workings displays on the tree's bloom, his and her fruit, the bounteous leaves, greens to the crisp of autumn gold. Feather to your cheek, breathing nearer. The wind is racing between the colour and me. The leaves rustle, the wind enters, lacing them together. Sun honey drapes the leaves and lances through the trees, the sea dancing giddy leaves. Tarnished brass and rust, smudges more colour to show, sail in golden glow. From the tree's canopy, soft kisses touch below. A surface like golden brown band, patina from the edges to open land. The surfer shines her beauty in hand, maybe a chair, an antique pair, through the years of some tears of wear and tear. It's very nippy.
The god who hates poetry is above us at the minute, making as much noise as he can.
Who'd you call Zeus? The weather god.
Well, hang on, you might just go in and sit in for
Yes.
Hi, could we use this station? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Cheers. You know, it'd be nice. I'm a big believer in trying to save nature. I love Mother Nature. I think it's important to us. And sometimes when you live in a city, you can be disconnected from it and you forget your roots of what you actually really are, which is an organic species who has passion and loves and needs food and relies on nature. And though we still do, we don't recognise it. You know, the farmers still have to rely on rain and sunshine and things like that. So it's interesting. People don't think about that. But, it's hard to make things change in life, you know, because people just want always money and they think that's life. They think having your comforts and all these new things is the way to go in the future. But I think we've lost a lot of our beastful ways about our rawness as human beings, and we've lost that touch with nature in a lot of ways.
That was the city, and the next time we meet was when I called up to David's house.
I've got a lovely Celtic Princess one. It's beautiful. It's for the people of County Tyrone, actually. And it's against gold mining in County Tyrone. Cause I'm not into, I'm against fracking as well, if you know what I mean. I did one about Crawfordsburn, which is nice. That's near Newtonards, I suppose, Crawfordsburn. Well, it's on the way to Bangor. It's along that coast, sort of part. And Dunmore Strand's about Donegal, the Dunmore Strand. It's a nice beach there. I had to write about it. And that's Mills and Doon. That's for my nana, that is.
We took a day trip along the coast to climb the Wee Binion, stopping off at Scrabo Tower in Newtonards first.
Coming in, who's maybe self-published before and they've given a wee talk and stuff. That's been pretty cool, like. And then different projects like the John Hewitt Festival. They did a 6-week workshop with us, and then it was published in a wee pamphlet of theirs, and that was good fun. I'd love to learn Welsh.
Would you?
Oh yeah. So that's because my Welsh granny, she used to call me a mochen, which means mucky pup. But apart from that, I'm not.
Oh, you going straight here?
Yeah. Right. Apart from that, I don't really know a lot of Welsh at all. You know, I would love to.
Yeah. You just have to go over and spend a year there.
Yeah.
That's the.
But again, it's probably pockets as well and speak it. You know. Yeah.
Scrabo Tower reminds David of his dad, John Daniel Davies, who passed away when David was 3 months old.
I look at Scrabo Tower because it's like somebody on guard, and it's always nice to have somebody to watch over you. And that's what I like about Scrabo Tower. It's as if it's there as a comfort. You know, it stands up straight, and no matter what wind beats against it, it stays there basically. And as being fatherless, I always wanted direction in my life, somebody to help me, to tell me. And I missed that growing up, and I think it's nice to have somebody strong in your life to listen to and to, get good advice from, and I felt I missed a lot of that. But the Scrabo Tower reminds me, about stance, basically a good endurance. Well, it's better on the stone, to be honest. It has a nice clang, a nice natural sort of ancient sound. Since I was first introduced to Scrabble Tower, I've been coming back and forth, with various friends, and then I've showed people here as well. It's always nice to show people various places, and then people can hold it into their hearts for, because I think it's good to share your favourite places with people, and then they can come back.
Busy wee place, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love Newcastle. Yeah. My nan and granddad used to take me here when I was a child, and when I saw the mountains, it just had an impact on me. Even though they're not like massive, but when I was a child, I used to think they're huge. It was a wonderland place, you know. I mean, yeah, I suppose you could park anywhere, sort of around here.
There's space there.
Ah, yeah. There is a coffee place on the edge there, and there's cafe. Yeah, there's a few. Well, I suppose a sandwich would be nice, actually.
Yeah, I don't mind. Do you want?
Fish cake maybe?
Yeah, those for me. Yeah. Yes.
Do you need this tray? No.
No.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's another dream job of mine, is to actually have a radio show. Actually, funny enough, to put my own music on and all and talk like a load of rubbish. That'd be superb. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would probably go around interviewing musicians and poets. Yeah. And go to purely poetry night and stuff like that. Yeah.
There was an early evening springtime chill in the air when we approached the Wee Binion.
Yeah, you can park outside of this. It'll be all right. Because I used to do it all the time. It's like a wee church hall or something. All right. Yeah, it is fine, honestly, it's fine. Loads of walkers do it. And the road we're walking up is just there. Beside it, yes.
Good. So when was the last time you were in this direction?
Earlier this year, I went up on my own with Tommy, my wee dog.
Oh, right.
I like to try and get up at least once a year to this wee small mountain to test to see how fit I am. Last time I struggled. I know it doesn't look all that big, but it can be quite steep at the top bit especially. And going over Bird Mountains is nice. I have a poem in the book called Bird Mountains.
Okay. Will you take the book with you then?
Yeah, I'll have it in my bag, yes.
Alright.
There's no really rivers. Because actually you could drink out from the Mourne rivers, the wee streams, yeah.
Have you done that before?
Yeah, loads of times. I've brought bottle down when we were younger. My granny used to say, "Oh, bring down a bottle for us to drink at dinner time."
Oh, lovely. I don't think I have a bottle here, actually.
But people do recommend against it, but I don't listen. Nothing's happened to me and I've drank from it.
Yeah.
It is natural spring water, but the only thing they say is to make sure there's no dead sheep up above it. That's the only thing. But apart from that...
That's extra nutrients.
Yeah.
Do you need gloves? Are you taking gloves with you?
I've got gloves in my bag and I've got my hat. Yeah, but earlier this summer when I was up, I just sat and over an hour up here on my own. I did some writing and I just sat back and relaxed, and it was lovely. I could have spent longer up there, actually, to be honest. This is where it gets a bit steep, unfortunately.
A bit steep.
Yeah,
straight up.
Oh, nearer the top we'll go across the wall. There's a low part and you can sort of like hop over, and then there's a path that sort of curls up around it and leads to the top.
Okay.
There's maybe a slight bit of climbing at the end, just a little bit.
I think you're downplaying this a lot.
Yeah, maybe. No. We're at the top of Wee Binion here. and I'm looking across fields with the ocean in the distance. Basically, it took us about 45 minutes to get up here, and it is quite beautiful. Behind us is Silent Valley, but in front of us the sun is dipping a lovely sort of orangey yellow glow, and there's lovely ripples in the land, creating lovely hills and stuff. So it is quite a sight, like, I have to be honest.
Just looking at one of the poems that you wrote, and you mentioned the Mourns where we are now, and we're looking out over the views of County Down over the Irish Sea. Maybe we can see the Isle of Man in the distance. Maybe it was at night time, we might see some twinkling lights. But there was one line there where I thought that it meant that someone was passing by and you were having lunch halfway up the hill, and you said to them, they said hello, and you said, say hello for me. And I thought you meant say hello to the top for me. Can you tell me about that one?
Basically, it's about friendship, and it's about a bit of warmth, in the sense that my friend said to another friend who's part of the writing group, "Oh, can you say hello to David for me?" So she came over and talked to me and said, "Oh, your friend says hello, by the way." And I thought that was lovely, so I just put it down as a nice wee image, basically. So I'll read it to you. It's called Lunch. Lunch. Amidst the whirling wind, tossed about like a rag, at the top of Barnard's rocky crag, from Mealmore's wall, a sheltered lunch, warmth is shared, a greeting. Say hello for me. Yeah, what's interesting about the top of Wee Binion is there's a line, a crack that runs basically right through from one end to the other. Whether or not it's obviously moved for some reason at one point, and it's filled with stones. And I think that's just, well, it's an interesting observation, really. It's a direct line. It goes over that wee top bit as well, which is, yeah, well, I find it unusual. But I sit on up here, so I usually sit beside this rock here. Well, I might as well read the poem which we're on top of, which is called Wee Binion. I wander upon her as a desire. I am captivated. She whispers footprint stories in a million. Across an upbeat land, she whispers her name, O Binion, come and play on me. Her erected crag, a hard horny wildness, blows through the comb tethers, a sense of maiden hair, of sensuousness, rough but cushioned to lie and sit, underneath the moist in spring. What are those patches like animals, bulging like someone has left fur hats, balled into the small, cracky grey top? Sitting on heather-wadded ground, she tells me of her soft nature. The sun warms the inside of my heart, filled with a timelessness. I take her for granted, reminding me of the wind's scorn. When the sun hides, the cold shadows appear upon her. I dote to long upon her. She quickly tells me, even in summer's drift comes fierceness. Then the sun comes out, and she twinkles those eyes, stars caught in her hair, as bits of granite rock sparkle brighter than the cut-caught light of a diamond face. Her landscape carves into my heart, paths etched by people walking. I walk. Don't you dare look upon her, only I carve the paths that lead to her soul. Like an egg cracking open, bringing forth that craggy top. Bouldering, rolling down her egg-patterned gown, freckled with light and dark splats and spats. A quilt I have heard time again. A rug lifts in rich greens and browns, perhaps marble patch colour thatch. Turning to catch sight, scarified paths like dry point etched, or graphite sketched, through the low side of Slieve Binion, she echoes such dreams to be his height. And like the title of the book far from the madding crowd, with the silence of Silent Valley in the awake, Wee Binion does not have to be loud, just to dance away the twirling paths around. Does she peek into the shroud of the clouds? She petite, beautifully dependent on what's around.
making her stand noticeably in the landscape.
The Romantic Landscape featuring David Davies was produced and edited by Alan Byrne. This programme was funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.